Okay, both players have kept, and there's a turn 1 Aether Vial from the Death and Taxes player.
Off
So this
planes.
is a fantastic start.
And we see Michael picked up a Deathrite Shaman.
Yes.
Can lead on that. I think because there's no hand disruption from a deck like Death and Taxes, it's likely correct to sandbag the Dread of Night so that Lewis is unable to figure out what value his cards truly have.
Yeah.
And his sequencing is informed by his belief that some of his cards are going to matter.
So Dread of Night is a black enchantment that gives all white creatures -2/-2, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, -1/-1.
-1. Okay, so it's also a useful tool for against mentor strategies.
It is good against Mentor, but it's utterly reactive. So you worry about the ability of Miracles to shift roles. So there's a lot of points of contention about bringing a card like Dread of Night in against Mentor Miracles. But it's a slam dunk against a deck like Death and Taxes.
Yes. And here we see a total ignorance of the Thalia by just casting a creature instead.
Well, that's one of the opportunity costs of a deck like Death and Taxes, is you work very hard to mitigate their non-creature spells and to attack their mana. But when they have cards like Deathrite Shaman, it's really tough to always work out that plan. And just really powerful creature-based threats that ignore things like Thalia.
Yeah.
And now a card that is great against Sultai is the other Thalia.
Yes, the one that makes your fetch lands enter tapped and then also fetch for a tap duel.
Elected to play 0 copies of, but I have lost badly to that card before with Sultai decks.
So Lewis is going to need a premier 3-mana threat, or he's going to need to have a Stoneforge Mystic to try to catch up against this True Name.
The Thalia, unless Lewis has a huge follow-up, I think he might have misapproached this game from a theoretical perspective. As I think just charging up your Vial and porting to keep him off True Name for another turn is likely a stronger play.
Yeah.
Because you can draw Wasteland and then backdoor yourself into shutting his mana down.
So what 2-drop do we think he has since he chose to not use the Aether Vial towards the Stoneforge Mystic?
He could have Revoker. He could have Revoker and then be waiting for a Jace, except he knows that he's Thalia'd off of casting Jace, so that's also interesting. He could have Sarah Avenger.
Sarah Avenger's fair, because I was trying to figure out what could catch him on blocks, but obviously no blocking to be done when you're staring down a True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
So he's going to crack this Misty. Because he's already got 2 dual lands, it's likely that he'll just find another duel, but he may find a basic.
I think you find Bayou here and you round out your suite of perfect mana.
So
Michael's not under too much pressure in the mana denial department as True Name Nemesis shifts the entire focus of the game to dealing with True Name Nemesis.
Plus, his opponent missed a land drop, and he has a Deathrite functioning as a Birds of
There's
Paradise.
the Dread of Night.
Yeah, so this Dread of Night is insanely strong right
and
now.
Michael, we can see, is a man after my own heart, rocking the white border here. I like using white border cards whenever possible. They just look cool. I think. A bit of a hipster.
Another note on art. This is a strong selling point of Legacy, is that the decks are just beautiful.
Oh, yeah, the Thalia is dead now. I'm like, it's going to cost 2. It does not cost 2.
Oh, is he going to vial it? He's just vialing in whatever he wanted to protect from the Thoughtseize, though.
Yeah, he has Avenger. So you can't cast Avenger, so you only can vial it on turn 3. It makes a ton of sense.
And I mean, another thing about the art is the altered Bayou is beautiful, but the whole Death and Taxes deck appears to be foil, which is truly, obviously a showing of a labor of love. Mm-hmm. So this Thoughtseize sees another Thalia, the 2-mana one, a Flicker Wisp, and Umazau's Jite, and the Sword of Fire and Ice that both players already knew about from the Stoneforge Mystic trigger.
We're 2 turns off of the Sword of Fire and Ice being equipped to anything, and this Jite could race. I think that Michael's obvious call is Sword of Fire and Ice here.
Yeah, well, it's got to be one of the 2 equipment, because both the creatures don't live under Dread of Night, so they're both totally irrelevant. And I agree that the Sword of Fire and Ice is the only thing that lets you try to race him from a card count and card quality perspective.
He can get Jite active, but
it doesn't really do anything against the True Name, though. Yeah. Like you're now in a position where you need to try to race.
He was a flyer, so he could arguably race with the Avenger over the True Name.
But the Avenger's also
2
shrunk.
and then 6 and then 6.
Yeah.
Versus 3 at a steady rate.
Yeah. So the Avenger is what, flying, vigilant, and no other keywords?
It is 2 mana 3/3 with flying and vigilance.
Yes. Okay. So it does not have first strike or anything other than that that will.
But it cannot be cast
up
on the first 3 turns.
Yeah, which is why he vialed it on 2.
Mm-hmm.
So if he draws a land, he's still unable to play and equip. So we'll likely see him just try to port or activate the Stoneforge Mystic. The Aether Vial now is not really going to be doing very much, but it'll be interesting to see if he ticks it up to 3 for the Flicker Wisp trigger.
Well, remember, all this comes into play trigger still works, so
yes.
he can still use the Flicker Wisp, and he can still use a Recruiter of the Guard if he drew one.
Yes. The issue is ever dealing with this Dread of Night permanently, because otherwise a lot of the Recruiter chains are going to be turned off, because one of the best things you can do is you recruit for a Flicker Wisp to flicker the Recruiter.
Yep.
And that line is almost entirely turned off right now.
We don't have time to do that. We're staring down a clock.
So he really wants to draw a Council's Judgment, but he doesn't have the mana to cast it, so he really wants to try to draw a land and try to get that sort of Fire Dice online, but it's already been sniped by the Thoughtseize. So this is...
Yes, as we see, normally with Vial active, Lewis would use his mana to just port and to keep Michael down, but Michael's got everything he needs to win the game at this point, so we're seeing Lewis's deck is falling a little flat because the idea of mana denial is kind of irrelevant at this point, so he needs to use his mana to deploy threats, most of which are neutralized by Dread of Night, so he's seeing
he's fallen significantly behind
trouble
also.
From a few different angles, exactly.
When he missed the land on turn 3, that was relatively critical because it didn't allow him to confidently port. And then the True Name stuck, and the True Name's been whittling away. It looks like we're activating on our own turn.
To play around Vendilion Click, I think, is the most likely reason.
But you can just activate in response to the trigger, right? So.
Well, yeah, but if Michael attacks, passes, and he says activate, and
and then you get clicked in response to the activation. Yes. Yep. Okay, that makes sense. And then, I mean, the Flicker Wisp can try to fog if there's ever a non-True Name threat, like if we ever see a Leovold hit play or the GT. If we see land GT equip, you can at least flicker the GT so that it unattaches.
So Michael has a GT in hand, right?
Yes. Yep. And he has the 4th land, but also that the Deathrite's not currently on for mana. He's already eaten both fetch lands, but he does have the 4th land to go GT equip.
I think he has a Wasteland, actually, too. So
okay. So he could just turn back on the Deathrite.
Well, he can turn back on the Deathrite and
take the Karakas.
And knock Lewis back another step.
Yeah. So do you waste the Karakas or do you waste the Rishadan Port?
I'd probably waste the Rishadan Port.
Even though you're already so ahead on mana development?
Well, it does almost like you leave Karakas, because I think if he just targets the Leovold with Karakas
you just get to draw a card.
It's just he can't afford to spend his mana that way anyway.
That's fair.
So I like wasting the Rishadan Port because it just does a unique thing.
That's fair.
It's possible that that's wrong, but
I'm pretty sure I like Wastelanding here. Either way, I like Wasteland over like Underground Sea.
I hope he has a Wasteland. It'd be pretty awkward if it was just the Leovold that we saw from the wrong angle.
Well, there's definitely an Underground Sea in his hand, though. So GT equip is certainly a line that is available to him.
The front of his hand is
okay.
Wasteland.
Yeah, that's a Wasteland. Yes,
it's Wasteland, Underground Sea, GT, and Leovold.
So it looks like we're on a Leovold Wasteland plan. And I think he's actually trying to bait a free draw by playing the Leovold first and hoping that it'll get Karakas, because he agrees with your assessment that the opponent doesn't have time to be
spend
doing
his
the
mana
Karakas.
that way. Yeah. I would have just gone with the play and equip GT, make him use all his activation on a Flicker Wisp that is basically just a
he does also know about the Flicker Wisp, so maybe he's not willing to sign up to waste his turn and he wants to put another threat into play to try to close this game out.
Yeah, I think he wants to leave up Deathrite Shaman activation.
For the Black Drain ability. Yes.
To cut the clock down.
Yeah.
That makes a ton of sense as well.
Because right now, the graveyard is a Ponder and a Thoughtseize for himself, and then an artifact and a creature for the opponent. So there's no reason to leave up the Bayou.
Well, it's likely correct to... Oh, he's flickering Stoneforge.
Okay.
I like that.
So what are we seeing? Maybe a tutor for a Batterskull that he's going to try to untap and put into race with?
The timing, I believe he did this at the end of the second main phase. Because if you do it at the end step, the Stoneforge won't come back until Lewis's end step.
But so now the Stoneforge is not summoning sick when he untaps, so he'll be able to put this Batterskull into play on his next turn via the Stoneforge's activated ability.
Well, this is part of why I like the GT line, because what we see is Lewis has pinched Michael in a tough spot where he doesn't have an answer to
the Germ token.
To the Germ token, yeah.
So if Luis draws a Council's Judgment right now, that would be fantastic, because he'd be able to answer the True Name and then try to cold the Leovold. But I think that a lot of his other draw steps are just going to kind of keep us in this holding pattern.
I think he wants a land here. He wants to draw a land so that he can equip GT and Stoneforge in Batterskull at the end of turn.
Okay, so he did rip the land. So he's going to equip first and try to at least potentially gun down the death right. He may just want the 4 life to try to race the true name better.
I think he wants the 4 life or something like 2 life plus a pump, and then keep doing that until the clock basically explains itself.
Because right now he's already colded the true name's damage, and with this Batterskull in play now, it's going to block the Leovold very, very well also.
Now, this play falls flat in the face of something like Maelstrom Pulse.
Yeah.
But I generally like playing around Click again.
Yeah.
If you played around Click the previous turn, you're at least being consistent, which I like.
Yeah. Once you've committed to the line, you should probably
the old
stick with
RK Post Germ token, I can't see what that is, though. He's got some cool ones.
Yes.
Is a Kanye West GOAT token, for greatest of all time. It's clever, right?
Yes. All of his tokens are very, very clever.
Needs to get a Tom Brady GOAT token.
So it looks like the hand is a Wasteland, and the Umezawa's GT from the turn prior. So I think he's priced into at least going GT equip, but he can only realistically put the GT on the true name because everything else is just going to get blocked. And then he can potentially set up a line where he gets to 4 counters and melts the Germ token.
Now Michael's or Lewis's choice to leave the counters floating allows him to somewhat neutralize Michael's GT because he can keep his Avenger alive.
Yes. But if it just goes on the true name, the attack just doesn't matter, and you try to gun down the Germ, I think, right? You
he can't prevent Michael's GT from getting counters.
Yeah.
But he can prevent Michael's GT from stopping him from getting counters on the
that's true.
turn.
Yeah.
Which is a small victory.
Yeah. Well, he also didn't need the life right now, right? He's at like 13.
Yeah, I think Lewis's short-term and I guess mid-term goal in this game is basically just Voltroning that Sarah
Yes,
Adventure.
because he's fully in on the survival game plan.
He's hoping for a land next turn, too. This is one of the ways that Death in Texas does beat True Name, like I said. Critical massive equipment.
Okay, yeah, so if he finds land 5, he can just move the Batterskull.
The evasion provided either by the naturally evasive flying threats or by Mother of Runes.
Yeah.
To get around
to just punch through. So if he finds land 5, do you just equip the Batterskull?
I'm snap Batterskulling up my Sarah Avenger. There's you can't beat a lot of things at this point, so you have to beat everything that you can.
That's true.
And you can beat the board if
he's also tapped out.
If you just set it up. Oh, the Wasteland here needs it absolutely needs to be cast from Michael, and it's super, super relevant that he prevents him from being able to equip next turn. See, he gave him the option to target Leovold, and when Lewis realized that he probably shouldn't do that, he no longer has the option.
Yeah.
So if he did wiggle his way out of this, he no longer has an answer to Leovold.
Yeah, and with another Wasteland in hand, he knows that even if he gets ported, it's likely that he can still ponder into anything and cast anything.
His last card is Wasteland?
Yes. His last card is another copy of Wasteland. So this Batterskull is a long way off of being equipped. I didn't see the draw step for Luis, but he's been slamming lands as he draws them, so it's likely not a land.
You can see he's taking a minute to think it over here, which is justifiable. Pretty complicated board for him.
I think he's just trying to make sure that there's not some weird way his Sarah Avenger dies if he goes to use a GT counter. Because if you activate the first one safely, then the second one, it needs to be responded to with the double melt, and then you can pump again and you're safe. I think he's just double checking that there's not some other thing that happens before he goes to attacks.
I think now that the Batterskull line has been shut off for the time being, I like just attacking for 2. Yeah.
Okay.
I also think you attack with...
I think you attack with the Batterskull, though, because I think you allow for the block where you ping the Deathrite and trade your Germ token.
It's also defensible to, pump your Sarah Avenger.
Yeah.
And then move GT to Batterskull and attack with it.
Yeah, I don't dislike that. I'm not really sure why he didn't attack with the Batterskull. I'm not sure why
he didn't attack with the Batterskull because he didn't want Michael to be able to catalyze a flurry of GT counters. And if he attacks with Batterskull,
if it blocks,
and Michael blocks with Leovold, he's going to be in a tough spot where he can later on
just shrinks the Germ
token, and then it can't block on the crackback.
Yeah, that makes more sense because right now your Germ token is more of a life buffer than an actual threat.
Well, yeah, its ability to neutralize Leovold is important. See, he elected not to port here, which I think is fine.
Yeah, I mean, once your opponent already has 4 lands.
End of turn and shut off the Deathrite activation.
So here we see the GT's ability of +2/+2 being used twice to make the true name into a 7/5 to try to race the opposing GT triggers. Unfortunately, GT also gains you 2 life, so the +2/+2 pump doesn't actually win the race between 2 GTs.
But if he's forcing Lewis to use his counters to stay alive, that's another small victory.
Yeah.
In that Lewis can't use his counters to try to turn the tide.
Yeah, because right now Lewis is still behind on board.
The person with a true name in these weird